Boom, 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 boom. Hello, everyone. This is TokuSake. I am Matt, and I'm here along with.
I am also TokuSake, and now we have a theme song. I am Tristan.
Well, we've always had a theme song, so thank you for letting us know that you've watched previous episodes, Tristan.
I I was part of previous episodes, Matt. So technically, I have watched them. I was there when they were created.
Fair. I
I
just.
was there when we turned our platform into a cyborg, Matt.
Right. Well, hold on. This isn't cyborg technology. Tristan, you've misunderstood the work today. We watched the first two episodes of Kamen Rider Agito, which is available for free, which I was very happy about on Toei's Toei Tokusatsu channel, World Official something channel. It's a very long name, but the point is that Toei has an official YouTube channel. It is the 50th year of Kamen Rider, so of course they're celebrating by putting up some of their older episodes of not the full series, sadly, because they actually have other shows that have full series. But when it comes to Kamen Rider, they're putting up the first two in what seems to be, to me anyway, random order, a very random
Ah,
order. But either way, though, Tristan, our first episode that we did literally 6 months back now, we talked about Kamen Rider Kuga. So I thought it would be great to be able to jump in and talk about the sequel, Kamen Rider Agito. And I've been hearing your reactions through text, and I truly don't know if you understood any of what happened. But I know you enjoyed it, which I heard you tell me that you were like, I really like this. But other than that, I don't know if you. So can you describe to me? Because I bring the Toku knowledge, you bring the sake. Tristan, what did you? Can you describe the first two episodes for the class?
okay. So we joined up with RoboCop,
Mm-hmm.
and he put on. They were testing out a common suit, but he's not an actual rider, but they made one, and then these Jaguar guys started popping out of nowhere and breaking people's necks. Uh,
Which really sucked for those people whose necks were broken.
yeah, and then they stuffed them in trees, which I mean, Jaguars bring their. I mean, like an actual Jaguar brings its prey up into trees to
Oh,
feast on it in peace.
look at
So
that!
I feel like
You bring more than just the sake. Thank you, Tristan.
I feel like that's what they were going for.
Hmm.
And then we had two other kids. One's a swimmer, and one's a house attendant. He cooks things.
He
He's
has
very funny,
amnesia.
very fun, very funny, very bad puns. Amnesia, yes. And
You forgot
they're
about the
both
amnesia plot.
they're both their heads, they get headaches and muscle spasms
They're
and
both heads.
yeah. They're like, oh shit, there's evil afoot, but we don't know it yet until they transform into a common and come save RoboCop. And then the police are like, hey, stay out of our business. There's no supernatural activity out in these cases. It's just serial murders. Get the fuck out of here. And then they're like, no, like, fuck you. Uh, I guess it
I
must
mean,
be a slow day today because you
that
waited outside to fucking tell me that.
that was your favorite line.
That was my favorite line. That fucking line was beautiful.
So yeah, so Tristan, you've described the episodes so well that we don't even have to continue the episode. We can just end the podcast at 4 minutes, really.
Oh fuck.
I mean, you
So
were so
wait,
good.
do I get did I get a good score? Do I?
You got less than, like, you're
Oh,
in the negatives. Like the
but
weather right now, it's very fucking cold.
so then we. So you're gonna end the cast on a failing grade, Matt? Is that what you're telling me here? Is that the quality that Tokusake has come to expect over the years,
Look,
months?
man, it took us 20 minutes to try to get the audio working behind the scenes. All right, man, we're just trying to chug on like everyone else.
I'm sorry, my belt only just appeared right now. Like I wasn't synchronized yet. I'm sorry.
I love that you have an audio quality belt. That's your Kamen Rider.
Exactly.
Um,
The faster my belt spins, the better my audio quality.
yo, the way you're clipping right now, your belt is not spinning a lot.
Oh shit.
Um,
Well,
Wait, you know what's really funny? Patchy's on your lap right now. She's your belt. Patchy,
Oh,
your
you can.
cat. You can hear her.
Yes, you can. Oh, okay. Yes, my cat is very happy right
She's
now.
purring. Yeah. All
She's
right. So
curled up on me in her happy place.
all right. Look. So here's the skinny. Okay. Here's the 411 Tristan for you
Okay.
and for those that might not know. So. This is as I said before, the sequel. This was not expected. They did not expect to create Agito when creating Kuga. It's not as if Kamen Rider was immune from being, about the toys, trying to sell stuff to kids, etc., etc. The thing is that the show was canceled after Black RX in the late 80s, very much like Doctor Who. I've talked about this before when we did the first episode talking about Kuga. So
Right.
Toei was looking at Kamen Rider Kuga as a revival thing to do a nice little quick one-off. Haha, it's 2021 and we've had a rider every year.
Right.
So
Oh, so it's new common then
uh I don't know
at
what
the
that
time.
means.
Well, like how it's new Who because they started up in
Oh,
2005.
oh,
So
yes, yes, yes. Kamen Rider Kuga was basically new Kamen. Yes.
right.
So, but again, I thought New Who they expected it to go for more than one series, but still, it was them trying
That's
to.
fair.
I think, but still, though, they were trying to dip their toes into it again, and that's what kind of
Right.
Kuga was. But again, they didn't think there would be any more of it because these series are 50 episodes long, weekly. If it does well, it does well. Let's create more. But I think they looked at it very much as like a nice little cute revival. But then things changed, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But what's interesting is how it affected the story, especially early on, because you miss this because when it comes to Kuga, you've only seen the first 2 episodes that we did for the show in episode 1. But they were mentioning the unidentified life forms because early on, of course, as a sequel to Kuga, they're trying to tie it in. But as the series goes on, they start losing those ties, and I don't think they have anyone come back from Kuga, if I remember correctly. Now, when it comes to the references, they've referenced the unidentified life forms, the UDLs, and unidentified life form number 4, who basically, that is Kuga. They just knew him as UDL number 4. Now, in this case, they're like, well, if these aren't the UDLs because they were destroyed, and you're saying G3 was saying, well, listen, if these were UDLs, I would have destroyed them because that's what the tech is made for. Like, we've mastered the tech within the last 2 years to destroy these things if they ever come back. So they're saying, well, if it's not those, then clearly we must refer to them as unknown.
Right. We have to call them something else.
Exactly. And the thing is, Tristan, it's really funny and a little cute that you're like, but G3, RoboCop, he's not really a rider, because if everyone out there is like, well, of course he is, duh. Don't be mad at Tristan. Again, he's not familiar with the fact that Kamen Rider, since Agito forward, has had multiple riders per season, usually. So,
Right.
no, because like in Kuga, it was just the one rider. And in Kamen Rider 1971 that we also have talked about on TokuSake, they eventually introduced Kamen Rider 2, also known to some as Nigo, but originally they had Kamen Rider, just Kamen Rider. They didn't expect, as we talked about this when we did that episode, those 2 episodes, they didn't expect for there to be another rider. It just happened by accident. So, and then in other Kamen Rider series, in the Showa era, which, there's debate on when the Showa era ended, because technically the Showa era went into the 90s, but usually people just call those the movies when they were like random movies in the 90s. Point is that when it comes to the Showa era, normally, unless it's an anniversary or something, it's one rider per show. So this is the one that actually kind of went in a different direction, and that's why we have both Agito G3 and a third rider who you can see in promotional material but wasn't really talked about within these first 2 episodes. The one time I wish kind of Toei released more than just the 2 episodes, because I feel like there's still more story to be told within this first small little Agito arc.
Yeah.
But I think the 2 episodes did a great job of luring people in, but there's nowhere to legally watch the entire series. So it's kind of just like at least with Kuga, you could watch that via Tokusatsu if you saw it on the Toei's YouTube channel. There's nowhere to watch the entire series. There's a streaming service called Toku, just called Toku. It has 4 episodes, but again, that's only 4. And also the subs are a little off. There's some grammatical errors, and just in general, like I think instead of Henshin at one point, like one of the, I'm sure it's been changed. I'm hoping it's been changed, but it's instead of Henshin, it had Honshin, and I was like, because it's not a free service. So
Right, yeah.
I was like, ooh. But either way, they licensed the first 4 episodes, so thank goodness they did that. But only the first 4. So, you hope that one day the rest of the series will be licensed. But as of right now, these first 2 episodes, they captivated you. All jokes aside, they drew you in.
Oh yeah, like definitely.
Now, what about it did so? I'm curious.
I guess like just how strange it was. Like, I mean, the Jaguar dudes were pretty fucking weird.
So the it definitely feels very much like a nod to earlier Kamen Rider with the mystery surrounding these. I mean, to be fair, in 1971 Kamen Rider, you knew it was Daishocker, but there was still a mystery every episode of trying to find out what in the fuck are these assholes doing, right?
Yeah, what are they up to this time?
Mm-hmm. And in this case, it's actually really nice to just not even know what they are. Like, they really are creepy. Like, I know, to some they might seem dated, and even at the time, they're just Jaguar dudes in scarves, or in, not scarves, in mufflers. Yeah. Which is also interesting because back in the day, Kamen Rider wore mufflers because that's, people who...
Right, yeah. I was going to say, It's like, a red, blue, and yellow muffler? Are these Jaguar part of their own team?
I don't know. And that's what's, quote unquote, I don't know. I've seen the show. It's just very...
I don't know. I never thought I'd get this far.
I mean, I feel like the Jaguars are kind of like that right now. No, they have a plan. But it's very interesting to see their plan kind of just unfold in this case, because they don't seem to be super strong, because I'm not saying that they're grunts, but like Agito can defeat them with no trouble. But what I find very interesting is that these episodes propose the idea of who is Agito. Is it,
yeah.
Is it, like, I know who Agito is. I've seen the show, and I've seen the character come back in future crossovers. But for you, Tristan, and for anyone else watching for the first time, you're sitting here and you're like, is it Shoichi? Like, is it the, like you said, the attendant? Because it's funny because they don't know how to describe him. They're like, oh no, he lives with me. So he's your son. No, we have an arrangement.
No. Yeah, so... I'm just like... And, like, the way he looks away when he says that, I'm like, oh, no, don't be like that.
Dude, just be like, yo, he pays me rent and shit. Like, I don't know, it's weird. Like, yo, he's a roommate. I mean, it's weird to be that old and have a roommate, I'm sure, to him, because he's a professor.
Yeah.
But at least be like, yo, he pays me rent.
Yeah, like, I feel like in Japan, they'd all look at him like, oh, well, that's kind of weird. Like, don't you have your own family and everything? Well, yes, but look, shut up. I don't judge you. Give me your fucking paper and shut up.
But, and that was even...
You're the one trying to write about superpowers.
What really really got me interested was, the one guy who's, like, he's had supernatural powers, and he's like, I can guess which cards are going to come up. And he didn't guess any of them. But the niece did.
Was like, oh, I know when someone's staring at me, and I know when my cell phone's about to ring. And literally, like, the little sister is staring at them from the corner of the room, and she reads all the cards. I don't know what the fuck is going on there, but holy shit.
No, that's what, and it was, the music was beautiful. And by the way, I mentioned the suit designs before. Again, some people have issues with some of the suit designs, but I gotta say, I love the cheetah men is what we're gonna call them, because we quote unquote don't know their names yet, allegedly.
I mean, I would go with Jaguar, but
right, the Jaguar,
whatever.
And Agito's suit, I forgot how gorgeous it looks in action in the show itself.
Yeah. No, the suits look great.
Oh my god. No, but like the camera angles, like while he's walking away, I'm like, wow, I forgot how good this looks. And also, of course, I enjoy the fact that, and this doesn't happen all the time, especially not in Kamen Rider, but I enjoy the idea that humanity was like, look, it took us a while, but we're going to fight back. And they have G3.
Right, yeah. Because... I love the fact, G3, it's like your helmet, it does that whoosh thing.
Mm-hmm.
See, but that's what got me the most. I'm like, oh shit, the police force has their own common suit now, but it's a suit. It's not, you're not the chosen one.
Well,
you're not an alien life form or whatever the hell the Kamen Rider spin is this season.
Did you read a summary somewhere? How the fuck? Why are you guessing shit?
I mean, I feel like you've shown me enough episodes that I'm like, okay, so there's supposed to be a chosen rider that's either A, B, or C, and this guy does not fill any of that criteria. So,
Okay, no, it's super. Let me explain to you why it's super weird. You're using the word chosen, which like with Kamen Rider, like with Takeshi Hongo from 71, he wasn't like chosen, like you are the
I mean,
chosen one. He was
he
like picked.
he
No,
technically was chosen,
no, 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 no,
Matt.
no, no.
He was chosen by the Nazis.
Man, does he not like to tell that story in that
No,
with those specific words.
exactly.
No, no, but what I'm trying to say though is that he was picked, but he wasn't like he's
Right.
our
It
chosen.
wasn't like chosen by destiny or chosen by some other
But
like
it's funny because Kuga,
otherworldly force.
he's arguably the chosen one, Godai. So it's hilarious
Right.
that you're like Agito. You're like, yeah, no, he's giving off chosen one vibes, and I'm like, how did you come to that conclusion?
I mean, like you said previous, like I haven't seen that much Toku, Matt, but like I can pick up on thematic strings. Like
No,
this
yeah,
is not my first dive into Japanese media.
I mean, the episode is really called "The Warrior's Awakening," the first one.
I mean that too.
No, yeah, I mean it's been a while, so I don't remember how every single plot unfolds, but
Right.
it is funny how like yeah, you see him like just the way he walks around, the way the suit looks, he looks like a king.
Yeah.
No, like he looks like he is chosen by the gods to, etc.
Oh,
etc.
Agito.
Yeah, Agito, yes.
Especially when the fucking crests on his helmet like spread out. It's like, oh, that means that's your powered up form. Oh shit.
Well, no, it's not a powered up form. Because like it's not a powered up form because they're not trying to sell more toys just yet. You gotta wait till like halfway through the season.
True. Yeah.
But no,
Well,
no.
it feels like more is like one, I'm here, and the next is, this is battle mode.
Yes, yes, 100%. You're right. Yeah, it's like battle mode, and
this is Beetle battle mode.
I love you so much. Tristan and I have known each other. No. Everyone has to understand. Tristan and I. You don't understand why I love you, Tristan. Tristan and I have known each other for over a decade.
I don't.
Not in this case. Tristan and I have known each other for over a decade, so he thinks he's making a quirky, fun joke about big bad Beetleborgs, right? But is that what you thought you were doing, or no?
Well, yeah, Beetleborgs comes to mind, but like
No. But Tristan,
like,
you were correct.
I've heard you talk about it, and I've never actually seen Beetleborgs my own. But isn't Beetleborg like a joke about?
You've seen the artwork.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you know how the Beetleborgs look. What I'm getting at is you were correct. What?
Oh.
Beetleborgs is actually another Toei series known as, in Japan, it's under the Metal Hero branch.
Oh,
Metal Heroes went on during the time... Yes. Metal Heroes started in the 80s, but they went on during the time in the 90s when Kamen Rider was out of commission. So looking at someone like G3... he is clearly heavily inspired by Metal Heroes.
Right, okay.
So when you make the joke about the Beetleborgs, I'm like, actually, dude, that's Juko B-Fighter. And yeah, when you look at B-Fighter against some of the riders from Agito and even future Kamen Rider series, you're like, bro, they just took Metal Heroes. And they just like said, but what if they were Kamen Rider? Especially because, those in particular, for B-Fighter, they were based off bugs.
Right.
So, literally, it's funny, because Tristan's like, I made a funny, and it's like, you've actually stumbled across something much greater.
You've stumbled upon a plot thread much greater.
It's like, we've talked about over at, Are Those Guys on the Radio channel, we talked about Godzilla, the newer Godzillas, Kong Skull Island. It's like when you see the ruins, the hieroglyphics,
right,
and it's just all the monsters fighting. Like you stumbled
those
upon
monsters.
Yeah, you stumbled upon like a huge plot, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is really hilarious. And I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Let them fight.
Yes. So that's very interesting that you brought that up, because yes, Metal Heroes essentially, was around, and of course Sentai as well, i.e. US Power Rangers, was around during a time when there was no Kamen Rider, and then Metal Heroes ended in the 90s. So it's hilarious that, once Kamen Rider starts back up, Kuga felt very much like just a return to form. But Agito definitely seems like, even though it's still a bit of a J-drama, like Kuga was,
Right.
it's still doing something different. Especially compared to some of the other Toku you've seen. Although, to be fair, on this show, just on this show alone, all you've seen is Kuga, 1971 Kamen Rider, Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Thanksgiving Day, Storybook Rangers, and Alpha's Magical Christmas. So, to be fair, only on this show, you've seen more Toku than that, but only on this show, it might not be the best. It's like, yeah, this is kind of different than Alpha's Magical Christmas, just a bit. But let's get the record straight here, okay? When you said it was weird, I think some people get the wrong impression. It's weird in a good way. You're the kind of person that says weird in a good way. Because I'm imagining some people right now being like, he's saying the things we love are weird. And it's like, no, not in a way where if he hated it, you wouldn't be on the podcast right now. Or you would be shitting on this. We talked about Alpha's Magical Christmas. You would have harsher words than it was weird.
True. Yes.
But no, I really do enjoy the mystery and the intrigue of not knowing who is Kamen Rider. You know who and I love the fact that they're following G3, even though, as I'm sure you can already tell just by, the character and everything and the fact that it's a man-made suit, he isn't the protagonist. Like it's a really interesting ensemble cast.
Right.
Something that Kamen Rider, again, at the time, didn't really do. I mean, Kuga had other characters in it, of course, but there was only one Kuga.
Right, yeah.
There were other characters in 71, but there was only one Takeshi Hongo.
Yeah.
So it's just very interesting to see that, and also to see that there wasn't an ending song. Like, there was no ending theme. It was the first Kamen Rider to not have an ending theme.
They just go into next time on.
Yes. And by the way, that opening theme. Oh, what a good song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely good.
Dun 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 dun. It's
differently, definitely.
It's like a melody, but like it's one of those things where it's funny because there's two openings, right? Because basically what they did was, very interestingly enough, they changed the opening halfway through the show. That isn't new. They've done that with other Kamen Rider as well since then. But what's interesting is that and they even did that in Kuga, but the way they changed the opening up, instead of picking a brand new song, which will happen sometimes, especially in anime, of course, what they did was they took the second half of the full track. So what they do was, in this opening, it's Yami no Naka, and then for the second opening, it's Yami no Niwa, and then it's kind of like a shift in how the song is, and it really throws you for a loop. You're like, oh wait, this is different, but it's the same singer and everything, because again, it's another part of the same song. Also, I have to say, the fight scenes, I really appreciate them, especially again comparing to Kuga with what you saw and what we saw. A lot of Kuga is in the daytime. Kuga, or I would say Odagiri. No, Godai Odagiri Joe is the actor that plays Godai Yusuke. He doesn't really care about being noticed and seen, but because they have this intrigue of who is Kamen Rider, it's all happening at night. And yes, you notice the headaches. It's interesting. Ryuki, not a sequel series, it's not tied in continuity, but the Kamen Rider after Agito also had a similar thing where you could hear the monsters via a similar tune. It's interesting that it's also happening in this show as well. And also you mentioned how show has really bad really bad puns. I really appreciated how they made the puns work in English, because you could have easily just done some translator's note stuff, and I'm I'm very happy they actually made the puns work and they were unfunny. Where he was like,
as puns are.
No, because when he said maybe I am, I was like,
Maybe I
damn it.
am. Yeah.
I was like,
And
fuck.
I love the two kids are just dead silent, and he like walks off chuckling. I'm like, oh, I love you, but I hate you at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, who do you think is? I'll tell you after. I'll tell you after the commercial break. No, I'll tell you after we. I'll tell you after we're done with the episode. But who do you think is Kamen Rider Agito?
So yeah, that was the thing. Like that's where the idea of like, oh, the chosen one comes in for me, because I'm like, I thought only one person could have like a specific suit or specific rider powers at one time. So having there be two people that might possibly be the same rider kind of threw me for a loop. So
Well, if it makes you feel better, the other rider will be a common rider. He's just not the one. He's just not Agito.
He's not Agito. Okay, so there are two different riders.
Technically
like,
three.
Okay.
G3 counts.
Well, three, yes, yes, of course he does.
Well, no.
I don't mean. I know I've been saying like, oh, he's not an actual rider. I don't mean it like that. Like,
Well,
I love his character in the sense that, yeah, I'm here to do good.
And humanity's risen up.
Right. Yeah. Like, I love those type of characters, and I do like when in various different media, like the human partners or the human element will come in and try to copy the superpowers, but in their own mechanized way. Like that's a very Godzilla thing too. Granted, Mecha Godzilla is not always a good guy either. Technically they're supposed to be, but I mean, I always cheer on Big G anyway, so
That's fair. But I bring up the reason why I say that is because I think at the time there was a debate, like, is he really a Kamen Rider? But I think he has been retconned since, and there is no debate anymore. Like, no, he's a Kamen Rider. But at the time, though, like, it's a very well, I don't think the show was watched in the U.S. in any fashion in 2002. But, like, years later, maybe like around like the mid to late 2000s, there were people online and forums and whatnot being like, is he really a Kamen Rider though? And then there were people that were like, he is, and I swear to God, I will come to your home.
I will fight you. I will transform in your driveway and fight you in full suit.
What I do find very odd though, and this is why you call them a cyborg, and I want to be like, ugh. But you're 100% correct in the sense that when I first saw this show and I saw G3, I was like, oh, he's a cyborg like RoboCop. And that's why RoboCop is appropriate, because he moves like, and it's like, no, you're a person in there. But you're a human in there.
It's a mechanized suit. Like, I called him RoboCop because he was in RoboSuit and
he
also
moves.
a cop.
No, but he moves like RoboCop, and they have the sound
effects.
and everything.
Definitely.
That's what I'm saying.
They have the sound effects.
Like, they're clearly going for, like, RoboCop. But it's like, no, but RoboCop wasn't... Like, Murphy was there, but he wasn't... Right. Like, he wasn't there in the same way that...
The robot is not him. The robot encases him.
His face can't just fall off and walk around.
Right, yeah. Whereas, RoboCop's like the $1 Million Man. We can rebuild him. We can make him stronger.
In this case, it's very much like we will fight against the threat. It's Ava. It's tiny Ava.
We will use our technology to fight against the extraterrestrial threat. Terrestrial. Holy shit.
I mean, we don't know if it's a terrestrial or extraterrestrial threat as of this time.
That's true. I mean, shit. It feels. That's the other thing. That weird like energy halo that appears over them when they were using the power, and they do the Z pattern on their paw before they attack. I was like, what the fuck?
I wasn't kidding about the Ava references.
Oh shit.
No. Actually, now that when I think about the ending of this show, I'm not spoiling anything, but the ending of this show kind of does remind me of the end of Evangelion.
Oh God.
Not 100. Only in the way where people go, "What the fuck did I just watch? What is this? What's happening?"
Okay. All right.
Not in a. I don't know. All I'm saying is that as the show goes on, it stops being, like I said before, it stops being connected to Kuga as closely as it initially seemed to be.
Right.
But
it has its fun references at first, but then branches off into its its own.
And you can definitely tell by the end of it, you're like, oh, this is not this can't be the same. By the way, something very interesting as well. Speaking of just very odd stuff, the very like ring photo that they had where they were like, oh, it's the sun in front of this nice little pretty lake. And then when he walks into the store to talk to the guy, he's like, oh, can I use your phone? He goes, whoa, what's that picture? Oh, it's the lake from 10 years ago. Sadly, they destroyed it right then and there. And he's like, the photo says 2000 in January, which was literally like earlier that month. This episode aired January 28th.
Oh, Jesus.
It was literally like, what? I think it was January 10th or something on the photo. So it was literally like 18 days earlier.
Right.
So literally they're like, 18 days, and I think it was from 2000. So they were like, it's like a year off or something. And it was just like, but this lake was demolished.
Yeah, this lake was filled in 10 years ago. He's like, excuse me? But this was only taken a few days ago. That, yes. That kind of threw, I'm like, what the fuck?
Again, it's something that I believe if they had at least one more episode up, because the third episode is called My Transformation.
You could start to make sense of it, yeah.
At least of the main early plot. Like, again, having the first two Kuga up is great. Because you can... Hell, even with Kamen Rider 71, they had the first 2 episodes up on their YouTube channel, but really they only need the first one. It's a very self-explanatory plot.
Yeah, I mean, like, 70s era, it's like they're not getting in... Not to say that it's bad in the sense that it doesn't go too deep.
It's
but
old
like,
Who.
You get the main idea of it within the first few episodes. Like, you're good.
Like, the first episode. It's classic Who.
Right.
Yeah, Kuga, it took 2. Ryuki, it takes 2. So when we do Ryuki, thankfully they have them both up on their YouTube channel. But Agito, I'm like, Agito takes more than 2. Watch, by the time we're done with this, fucking by next month, they'll put up another one. Tristan, if they put up one more Agito, I'll scream. I'm going to send you a gif of Gills, Kamen Rider Gills from this show, screaming.
Right, and that will be you.
That will be me, yes. Anyway, so, but no, yes, so you found it weird yet intriguing, because we were talking about it a little bit on the phone before we began the episode, and you were just mesmerized by whatever the hell you just saw.
Yeah, I think the first text that I sent you was like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on, but that Jaguar man just exploded!
RoboCop just killed Jaguar Man.
Yeah. Yeah, that energy halo that appears over them when they're using powers or appearing, and then when they die, like, it comes over them. And it's weird. It's like they're not dead, but, like, obviously Kamen Rider just kicked their ass, so it almost feels like the power that's sending them there in the first place is like, oh, you are not worthy, you have been beaten, so it's time to destroy you. Like Vegeta fucking blowing up a Cyberman being like, that one was weak.
Yeah, that's the thing. They look like it's weird. Their suit designs when I look at them, I'm like, are you like big baddies? But then they die like monsters of the week.
Yeah.
Like, don't they look like they're very important? Maybe it's the mufflers. But
yeah, no, like each of them having a different color and like them, like, even though all they do is like they've killed people, but like the fact that they like power up and snap their neck, I'm like, oh, okay. And
yeah.
I mean, G3 couldn't beat them. Like his suit, like he gets fucked up twice.
I was expecting. I'm like, no, yeah, it's a Kamen Rider fight sequence. And even though, to be fair, Kuga also got wrecked in those first 2 episodes as he's learning to be Kuga.
Right, like
G3,
he's still. Yeah. He just gets his shit wrecked. He's like, nothing's working. Why is nothing working? And the one dude is just screaming at him, oh, your shoulder unit's down. Oh, battery at 30%. It's like, I got fucking punched in the face. I can tell.
It's really nice. It reminds me of like, and you know, this obviously came before the MCU, but it reminds me of like Marvel, like having Iron Man just being told, like, you know, your power is going down, your shields are lowering, this is happening,
right?
And it increases the urgency so much. Like, it really makes like, I was invested in that scene just because they're like, you know, as he's getting punched in the face, it isn't just, oh no, I flew. like 20 yards. It's,
Right.
all right, your shields are lowered. All right, 80%, 45%. Your suit isn't even a suit anymore. It's actually just a bunch of salamanders. You got to get out of there.
Jesus Christ, get the hell out of there. And then fucking Agito just walks up like, all right, I'm
The
cleaning
Chad
shit up.
Agito.
Yeah. Oh no. Like, I want to root for G3, but I'm like, dude, you are out of your league. I hate to say it, but
Well,
like,
no, and that's
I love the hustle, but fuck, man, you gotta get out of there.
Well, two things, right? One, that is actually what ends up propelling the character throughout the
that's
series.
good. Nice.
And two, it sucks because it's one of those things where it's like, I was so prepared for the last threat. Like, it took them 2 years. Because in our timeline, as we're watching this, it literally, I believe, if I remember correctly, Agito literally aired like any Toku would, or at least any long-running Toku would. Agito airing January 28th. I'm pretty sure it literally, like, the 21st is when Kuga ended. Because that's usually how it works. Let me make sure, though, as we're talking about this. Point is that it didn't take 2 years to release Kuga. So,
Right.
But in their timeline, it was 2 years since the Grongi threat. Now, I don't remember if throughout Kuga they actually go through a full year in their time. But what matters is that it's been 2 years since the Grongi threat, and they're like, or as in, they know them as the UDLs, the unidentified life forms. So they're just like, yo, we know exactly what we're doing. We got it. If they come back, we're gonna fuck them up. And then something new appears. It's just like, about that.
Crap.
Flies, head hits a windshield.
About that.
Yeah, no, I was right. Literally, the last episode of Kuga, which was called Yusuke, which beautiful name. That's literally that's his name. It really hits you. It's like it'd be like last episode of Dragon Ball Z. It's like Goku. You're like, oh, shit's gonna go down.
Right. Yeah.
And it came out on the 21st of January. So literally a week later, you have the new series. So it's a lot to live up to. I mean, this could have been the GT to their Dragon Ball Z. You know what I mean? Remember that, by the way. Some people forget this because of how we got it in the US. But always remember this, Tristan. Dragon Ball Z ended. Goku was like, goodbye, maybe forever. I don't know. And then a week later, they played Dun Dun, which, by the way, beautiful opening theme song for a show that was adequate.
We didn't get that opening either.
Oh right, we got the like rap instrumental.
I don't like to think about it.
Oh, I remember now. So honestly, Tristan, I have to be honest with you, Tristan. If we're gonna compare, I have to be honest with you. The One Piece rap is better. On principle alone. With everything they packed into it, and the fact that they actually informed you of the story.
Why would you say something so bold yet so true?
They were mad at Jesus because he told them the truth.
Oh God, he's right. I can't be mad at him, audience. He's correct. Fuck.
But Don Don was such a good opening. For a show. Really, but again, remember that though, right? Dragon Ball Z, and I know it had an manga to it as well, but Dragon Ball Z was like 291 episodes.
Yeah.
GT lasted for 63 weeks. And remember, Tristan, again, a week after, Goku's like, goodbye, they just started up again.
Yeah.
This could have been that.
Yeah, for us, yeah.
No, not for us, in Japan. Remember, they ended the show in Japan,
no,
and then one week later, they aired GT.
Like, we're gonna cash in on this shit.
Yep. So Toei could have fucked up royally with Agito.
True.
And no, for us, I think it was like 6 months because we got the episodes dubbed in batches.
Yeah. Right.
So for us, I think it might have been like 6 months or something, but for them in Japan, it was a week. Right. So, in this case, you have an emotional episode for the end of Kuga, really bringing back Kamen Rider for those young and old. And then now it's like, but what if we had a sequel? I mean, RX, some people talk negatively about RX and some of the changes that happened in Black RX versus Kamen Rider Black, where Kamen Rider Black had an emotional end. Kotaro, who is Kamen Rider Black, has a fight with one of his rivals who is very close to him. It's just a beautiful meeting and a fight to the death, where obviously he's Kamen Rider. So does he win? Does he lose? I mean, you assume he wins. He's Kamen Rider. So then they do a sequel, Kamen Rider Black RX, and Kotaro is with a new family. They don't mention his sister. They don't mention his previous fight, other than the fact that he loses his powers and then gains new ones, like Power Rangers style. And he becomes, instead of being Kamen Rider Black, he's Kamen Rider Black RX. And don't get me wrong, the song for RX was good. His pose, like his transformation pose for RX is good. The music for the show in general is pretty damn good. The villain suits are great. But they literally said, what if we take the main character, because Black was popular, we put him in RX, and we just forget everything that happened in Black?
Yeah.
And people had problems. I don't know about in Japan, but I'll say this much. It was the last Kamen Rider until Kuga.
Oof.
No, I think Kamen Rider was just on the downswing in general, and they probably thought, we're going to end it here. I think they wanted to end it on Black, but then Black was so popular, they were like, actually, what about RX? And
I guess we can.
In this case, it was a mixture of things. It was obviously Kuga, was popular. But I want to make sure I find out the name of the producer of Kamen Rider at the time. There we go, I found it. So I believe we talked about this quote during our first episode when we talked about Kamen Rider Kuga. I believe we did it. If not, we'll bring it up now. The producer of Kamen Rider at the time, Shinichiro Shirakawa, talked about how... So I apologize for saying that Kuga was going to be the last one. He was actually planning on... so here's his exact quote. There's something called the 3-year cycle theory that says something can become tiring after 3 years, even if it's a success. By this point, I had worked on 3 Ishinomori revival shows with Robocon, Kuga, and Agito, so I planned on doing something new. And by the way, Ishinomori is the not just creator of Kamen Rider, but he also did a Super Sentai manga as well, which then got adapted into Go Ranger. So you could argue he's also, in a way, the creator of Super Sentai as well. And he also did Cyborg 009 and a plethora of other stuff like Skullman and a bunch of other stuff that you've probably seen, or at least have seen referenced in anime. Because, I mean, he was creating these, obviously, in the 60s and 70s and earlier as well. So, he passed away, sadly, I believe, in the late 80s. So, but still, he always, he has a bunch of stuff that he sketched out at the time. And I remember he was working on Black. I believe it was kind of like how Gene Roddenberry passed during TNG.
Right.
Where, like, he passed during Kamen Rider Black, but, like, he did enough of it. And I think he also did a manga one-shot as well, I believe. So he did a little bit of work on it, but it's not, like, as much work as he had done on previous series. Not as if he had, like, a big hand into it like Gene Roddenberry did with Star Trek, but it's a similar situation, especially towards the end of his life, where he passed, I believe, during the airing of Black. Either way, when it comes to Shirakawa, he goes on to talk about the fact that as planning on the series that would replace Kamen Rider Agito in its time slot, the 9/11 terrorist attacks happened. And both of us are native New Yorkers, so instantly when I read this, my heart tightened up. And I talked to you about it the day that I read this. This is an older article from nearly 3 years ago now. So Shirakawa goes on to mention that he says, we got a memo from TV Asahi saying, now more than ever, we need to teach kids about justice.
Right.
And he said, and I had to relent. And then the following series, Kamen Rider Ryuki, was inspired by this. He talks about the fact that the concept of justice is difficult to grasp. He says, children sometimes envision themselves as the heroes and think they might also be justice. There is also the idea that people don't often accept themselves as being wrong, because in one's mind, I am myself, so I'm not wrong, is the prevailing thought process. These thoughts lead to selfish patterns because kids might not see themselves, but as the heroes. Mr. Ishinomori had fears that too many people would think this way when working on his creations. But I mean, it's interesting, though, that I think that it's something that it doesn't just connect with kids, even at this point. It connects with really anyone. who is a fan of, I think if you can be a fan of either Power Rangers or now, of course, the MCU and how big that's gotten, I do think it's easy to be able to connect with these heroes who are just, you see that they're just trying their hardest,
Right.
Like,
They
that's how
are
it feels.
themselves, but they're trying to work for something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. And so but I think that it's interesting that Agito, and again, I apologize before for saying that Kuga would have been the last. This article is literally from 2018, but the fact that that Agito could have been the last, and now here we are, 50 years of Kamen Rider, and Kamen Rider has gone on again, like I said before, yearly to this day,
Right.
which is crazy to think about because that it could have just ended in 2002, and I not that there wouldn't have been fans online of Kamen Rider, because there would have been, but I don't think it would have gotten licensed. I don't know if Toei would be having it in English with English captions, English subtitles on their official YouTube channel for a US audience.
Yeah.
As much as I love Showa era and I love Kuga especially, it's the fact that it's a property that kept on going. I mean, hey, Ryuki is actually what got adapted into Dragon Knight, which was actually a really good Kamen Rider adaptation. There were issues, I would argue, with the previous adaptation, which Kamen Rider Black RX became Masked Rider. But when it comes to Kamen Rider Ryuki, which literally does mean Dragon Knight, it was actually really cool that it got adapted in a way that it was different than Ryuki, but it was still really fun to watch at the time. So it's sadly no other Kamen Rider ended up getting adapted, brought over to the US. But I mean, now we do have them brought over to the US subtitled only, which I'm fine with. You having Kuga and having 1971 legally available through Tubi, which not sponsored, it's just free. Being able to watch something for free, I'm like, I'm going to talk about that to everyone who wants free.
I'm going to scream this from the heavens.
Free! As I transform. So I think it's time to move on to the sake. Tristan, you talk about yours first as I'm taste testing my sake.
Well, then, I shall pour the last cup out of my bottle, then.
By the way, I'm acting like I haven't been drinking my sake the entire episode. I actually did a few other mix-ins of it, because this is one that says it can be mixed in other ways. And, Tristan, when you and I think it was, if not last episode, it was the episode prior, so this might have been for Christmas, you were like, ooh, I got inexpensive sake, which... It's inexpensive, which is good for the wallet, but sometimes it's not necessarily good for the quality, and you felt weird drinking it straight because on the back it said you can also mix it, and you've never drank sake where you've mixed anything with it. I actually mixed some orange juice with mine, so I'll get to how that tastes a little bit later. But I know. But Tristan, please tell me how yours tastes, and also just some other fun facts about it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a little hoity-toity in that fact. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Normally I don't look at sake as a mixed drink. It is an alcohol I consume on its own. But yes, this time around I have the brand is Momokawa, and it's very actually nice, pretty blue bottle. Diamond medium dry sake, Junmai Ginjo craft sake. And that was one other thing I wanted to point out. We may have been using terminology for the past few episodes that maybe not all are familiar with, so I wanted to look at it a little closely, even for myself, too. Junmai and Ginjo being descriptors of the sake for two different things. Basically, both describing the quality of the sake, but Junmai referring to... sake that doesn't have any other additive alcohols into it. It is purely rice. The alcohol is fermented from rice, so rice wine. And Ginjo being a descriptor of the quality of the rice the rice grains, so the amount of polish that the grains get. Basically, just to boil it down, rice. Anyway, I am the rice, Matt.
Yeah, right.
Ginjo being a finer quality of polish on the rice grains. So the idea is polishing any other foreign elements that may get onto the rice itself before using it for the fermentation process. So Ginjo meaning it's higher on the scale of polish. I believe it was 30%, something along those lines. But anyway, the little blurb on the back for my bottle. Momokawa Diamond Junmai Ginjo Sake. Mellow and smooth with apple, melon, and tropical fruit accented
Ooh.
by subtle spicy earth and mineral notes. Enjoy this versatile medium-bodied sake with diverse foods such as Italian, steamed clams, pork, or aged goat cheese. Oh,
So
wow.
you didn't have it with any of that, but you know how those taste. Would you recommend the two?
I know how some of those taste.
Maybe not the goat cheese, although goat cheese is pretty damn good.
Or the steamed clams. I'm not really a clam guy myself. But it's funny. I actually did have I had a cauliflower medley with different vegetables with a little glazing of teriyaki, and I breaded my own tilapia fillets, fish fillets, with a little bit of panko breadcrumbs. So
All right. Now I don't think it's about the sake anymore. You're just telling me about how well you cooked, and that sounds like a damn good meal.
I mean, it was pretty good actually, but yeah.
I had
I
mine
mean, the
with...
cauliflower medley is microwaved, so I can't take credit for that one.
Oh, okay. I had mine with senbei cracker.
Hey, it's always good to snack with sake.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it actually paired well with the meal. I was actually pretty happy. But yes, and it recommends that you refrigerate before serving. It's a 14.8% alcohol by volume, so closer to 15, so a little bit more what I'm used to. Momokawa is Oregon craft sake brewed with time-honored techniques and pioneered spirit. Every Momokawa is Junmai Ginjo quality, pure sake made with each rice grain polished to at least 60%. Ah, that's what it was, yes. So Ginjo is a 60% polish on rice. So yeah, this was...
So then, do you recommend it?
Yes, actually I would.
How much did it cost?
I feel like... Well, wait, sorry, what?
How much did it cost?
Around 20.
Okay.
Basically around the same as most of the other bottles, and it's about the same size. It's probably a medium-sized bottle. Like, definitely you could share this with other people. Me being I'll just put it, consumer that I am. This is more of a personal bottle for me.
Right.
But yes, I actually did very much enjoy this. I was looking at the shelf at my local shop, and I thought, what haven't we done on the show yet? And I'm like, I want something. I want a good one. So I looked around. And I saw this one. And I'm like, you know what? Let's give it a try. That looks pretty good. And I want to say I'm actually pleasantly surprised. It was actually a very good bottle. I would definitely recommend.
So I'm happy to hear that. I don't know how to feel about mine because honestly, it's a weird situation where when I poured it initially up to the top, I didn't have a problem drinking it. But now that I've gotten closer to the bottom, it's starting to burn. And so mine is the finest sake, Gekikan or Gekekan.
Oh.
Did you have this one a few times ago? Because there's some mixing, like on the back, it says, hey, you could mix this with this. And it sounded like exactly what you had.
Yes, it's the same brand. It may not be the same bottle, but same brand.
So this is a big boy.
My family has a history with Gekikan, and we're not pleased with Gekikan.
Oh, okay, right. Yes.
So anytime I hear that name, I'm like, oh no.
So here's how I feel about this, right? It's a big boy, which I like. I think it was only like $9. So if you're looking to get something big and cheap, I mean, you get, but to some people they would say, well, you're getting what you paid for. Some people being Tristan, but look,
I didn't say it. You could hear me. You could hear it in my silence.
I heard some gears turning in your brain.
Yeah.
So the way it's described online, I could read it on the back, but I want to read it online. It says, herbaceous with hints of grapefruit and a light earthiness, good acidity, mineral driven, well balanced with a clean, medium finish. I have also been described similarly. Now, both sentences. I have also been described similarly.
Oh God, I wanted you to use that as a profile tag.
just on my Facebook. That's what you mean?
Yeah, sure. Just for anything, go for it. Just see the replies.
That'll be on my grave.
Oh no.
Delicious with tempura, full flavored fish and shellfish, fresh green vegetable dishes, and coconut based Asian dishes. A flavorful base for stocks and marinades. Again, something else some have said of me. But the these are getting more and more obscure. So it says this on their website, but also on the back as well, is that you can also have it either in the traditional Japanese manner, which is pour gekikan sake in a small container and place in hot water to warm to 105 degrees. Now, funnily enough, in this weather, that would have been perfect. But we are doing a podcast where I'm tethered to a PC, so I could not do that. I don't really know, what am I I'm gonna be like, Tristan, just start talking about Agito, and then I just run over and start fucking heating up the sake. You can't really do that when we're doing this for an hour. And also other technical difficulties while trying to record this. So, couldn't do that, but I do think that in this weather, it would have been wonderful if it was hot. And I didn't drink a lot of this so far, so I'm definitely gonna heat this up for the coming days. I mean, I don't know exactly when this is coming out, but what's funny is, as we're recording this, it's snowing. In New York, that could be any time during the month of February.
Yes.
So when I say, I don't know when this is coming out, but it was snowing, that's how cold it was, I don't know when, you could be, you don't know what day I'm talking about.
You're not pinpointing it, really.
No. So there's sake on the rocks, which I did want to try, but I did not have the chance to, because we were trying to get everything ready quick. Don't want to do this too late as we're recording this. So sake on the rocks sounds good though. Pour 2 ounces of gekikan sake on ice cubes. Add twist of lemon peel. Then there's a sake screwdriver where it says pour 1.5 ounces of the sake over ice in a tall glass. Fill with orange juice. That I did try. That I did like, and I would recommend. Or a sake Bloody Mary. I have not tried that, and I'm not really interested in Bloody Marys, so I would not recommend it, only from not trying it. Now, should you drink it straight? Here's my issue, right? When I poured it up to the top initially after shaking it, it tasted just fine, in my opinion. I don't care about, the alcohol, the burning sensation was not there, as it is when you get closer and closer to the bottom of your small little shot glass that I have. In other words, if you're looking for something smooth, this ain't it. Don't do this.
Yeah, and there it is. That's all you gotta tell me.
That's the thing. Tristan loves a nice smooth glass of sake. I agree with you. Sometimes what it is, I'm okay with the burn if there's other little hints and flavors in there. And I'm not going to say this tastes like nothing. It does taste kind of fruity, but personally, again, especially when you get down to the last drop, as I just did, it burned my throat on the way down. So Tristan is not a fan. But I do think, though, that last time you got a similar, at least under the Gekikan brand, you probably should have tried it with orange juice, because honestly, it spices it up. Makes your orange juice a little spicy.
Okay. That's fair. I get where you're coming from with that.
I like mixing drinks in general. I just never have mixed a sake before.
Right.
But
I mix drinks with other alcohols that I drink, but when I look at sake is not something that I look to be like, oh yeah, let me mix this with something. It's like, it does not compute.
Yeah, no, Bacardi and Coke, rum and Coke,
Right, yeah, like whiskeys I'll mix with other things. Like my gin I'll mix with other things. Like sake, no, like sake is standalone.
Right, and so, by the way, it says the alcoholic content's 15.6% by volume.
Well, damn. I mean, I guess they figure if they booze you up enough, it won't matter what it tastes like. You'll just keep taking shots.
And again, it was super cheap. If I remember correctly, it was $9 to $10 when I got it at my local liquor store. So, again, if you need something, this is something.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you no. You have to,
Oh
save
yeah,
up for
no,
the. If you need something, this is definitely something. It's not the worst bottle of
that's
sake
fair.
I've ever had.
If you're looking to get the job done, I get it.
I mean, that much alcohol content, I get it. But
Yeah.
but I do think that if I would rather, because I've had warmed up sake before, just not this particular bottle, I would suggest warming it up,
Yeah,
especially
usually
now.
at least in my experience, warming it up usually gives it less of a kick and less of an aftertaste, less of a bite. So
Yes, exactly. Or if you're not going to do that, again, I would suggest mixing it at the very least with some orange juice and some ice cubes. Although I do really want to try it on the rocks. I don't really usually drink anything with lemon peel in it, but I'd be like, you know what? For this, I'd like to try it. I think it would be really nice. But again, if you're just like, I'm just drinking straight, it's me and a couple buddies, you should let them know. you should warn them before you're like, we're just gonna pour it and we're all gonna have a great time. You might, but it's like we said, it gets the job done.
right.
So I recommend it half-heartedly. It's not a full recommendation.
Okay, that's I can get behind that. I can approve of this rating.
Well, thank goodness we got your approval, Agito.
You're damn right.
All right,
That's
so
G3 to you.
oh, okay. I was giving you the royalty title, but all right.
Oh right, no, I fuck it, no, go back.
No, G3. Sorry.
Ah, damn it.
So we've gone to odd directions enough with this episode. We're gonna wrap this up here.
Alrighty.
But we recommended or have recommended our sake. Would you recommend Agito?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I would say probably watching some other commons before jumping into this, personally.
Oh, well, you know what? That's true. If you've never, well, it's weird. I don't know how to feel sometimes because, like, some people, like me, and I would argue like you as well, if we've seen anime, we're like, oh, this is anime, but people.
Yeah, like, I've seen enough common to be like, okay, I can see where they're going with this, but, like, I do feel like even though you said like yeah it only has a few little bit of ties to Kuga at the very beginning and then it branches off into its own thing, I still feel like it's worth it to have that background
Yes.
just to be able to know like what the references are at the beginning.
Yes. Even if you didn't know what that was and you had like a friend like me just tell you, I do think that to some it might seem jarring to have the suits look the way they do and have the plot be as serious as it is for some people, because you've seen enough common that like you're not going to laugh at the Jaguar men, but some people may. So maybe if you're recommending stuff to someone, maybe you let them see other toku before seeing this. Like I know you seeing 1971 Kamen Rider really like made you go, oh, okay, I feel like it clicked for you. As much as you enjoyed Kuga, I feel like you got it when I showed you 71 Kamen Rider. You're like, oh, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, okay. The special effects, the story, everything, like it all clicked in a way that when I showed you, I think years ago, you've forgotten the names of them, but I've shown you like, Zio or J, and those didn't really connect with you.
Yeah, because I didn't really have any context for it.
Yes. So yeah, I would recommend this, but only if you've seen other Kamen Rider, because again, it's so interesting how some people we know, like they love anime a lot and some weird stuff, but to watch Toku, they'd be like, no. And it's like, really? Like, you watch this and this and this, and they're like, yeah, but that's animated. It's not live action.
Right.
So it's super interesting. It really depends on the person and and what they're into, and if they like. I would argue, even watching MCU sometimes isn't enough. Like if somebody watches maybe like stuff on TV like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Arrowverse, it's a bit easier to recommend something like Kamen Rider to them, perhaps. But when it comes to some of the bigger budget movies, something like MCU, as much as I love the franchise, it's some of the special effects have spoiled people, us included. Where Toku will always have a special place in my heart because I started with Toku before the MCU, at least before the MCU took off. But still, it is funny how, for some, I think, with how superheroes have changed with the way the MCU presents them, they want more CG. But then when you see more CG in Toku because of the budget, it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, it doesn't. It takes away from it in a way, at least personally for me.
Yeah, no, same here. That's why, even though you haven't seen newer CG in Toku, but still, I much prefer when it's just people in suits punching each other in the face.
Right. Yeah, because I think I made that comment when you showed me a few episodes of another series, Garo.
Oh well, okay. That was also that was in 2005. That was
True.
a late night show. But you're 100% right of all of that though. Yes, Garo, 2005, and I think I don't know if the Blu-rays existed at the time or if I showed you it on Blu-ray, but also that also didn't help either because it was like it wasn't a bad upscale. It was like in Blu-ray.
Right, like the quality was good,
which made it look the CG from 2005 look like a PS2
the CG
game.
was very CG, and I was like, I missed the practical suits and effects.
But then, like when you would see him shining, standing somewhere, Garo.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! Like
would look fucking beautiful.
Chef's kiss.
Right. Exactly.
We'll talk about Garo one day, but again, we are in the year of Kamen Rider. So next month,
the year of our savior, Kamen Rider.
Correct. Next month, we should be, unless something changes dramatically on Toei's YouTube channel, we should be talking about Kamen Rider V3. And if you want to follow us and see when that's going to drop and all that stuff, you can follow us on our socials, facebook.com/thoseguysontheradio, Twitter, which is @thoseguysradio, and our website, which is tgproduction.net. But before we wrap things up, I want to talk about the writer of this show, only because of the fact that... So I forgot how many Sentai he's been on. I knew about Jetman, but he's also worked on Flashman, which came out in the late 80s as well. But what I want, and other Sentai as well, a bunch, can't talk about them all. But I want to just laugh at the fact that even though his Jetman was also a little dark, as he goes on working on other Kamen Riders, they get really dark in an odd way. Like Fies, which is also written as 555, is like really just depressing. Like I'm watching it and I'm like, this is just sad. Like it's just so depressing. And it's funny how Agito is like, he's a head writer, super serious, but it's not in like a depressing angle. But then I'm watching Fies and I'm just like, I stopped watching it. I was like, I don't want to be this sad.
Right.
I want to like watch some like fun shit. No, like dude, it's very depressing. It's like, literally in one situation in the show, a girl tries to help her sister who's a bully to her. And I think she's like her adopted sister.
Yeah.
And she's such a bully that even though she has superpowers, so she can hear that she got hit by a car and goes to save her, her sister is such a bully in a way that is completely against any, like even just logically so. She goes, because the attention is on her for her saving her, she goes, no, so-and-so pushed me. And it's like, God. Oh my fucking God. Like I stopped watching a few episodes later. I was like, this is to the point where literally it's like, it's like you're cutting onions and you're crying and then you accidentally like cut your finger and then the onion is like, the onion starts talking, good, you deserved it. Like it's like,
the
all right,
juice
Jesus.
is pouring into your open wound and you're like, oh God.
And then the onion is looking at you like, good. And you're like, what the fuck is happening?
What you deserve.
Exactly. So, but Agito, I think from these two episodes, it's serious, and in a way, with no character like Yusuke, in a way even more serious than Kuga, especially with the neck snapping. But it wasn't depressing. I think that's what I find very interesting about this. Like this is before. Him writing Fies, which literally just felt like a sad off. Just how sad can we get? So that's very funny. But because again, he's very prolific at the time. Many people were talking about his work as he went on to do different episodes of different series. You could kind of always tell when it was an Inoue episode. So
Right.
it's very interesting to look at his early Kamen Rider work. Not his early work in general. He also did 9 episodes of Kuga at different points, but like his early work on the Kamen Rider series. Either way, though, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much for listening in. I already mentioned the socials before, so before I say goodnight, just want to say that hopefully you like the episode and you tune in next month for some more TokuSake. So, see ya.
G3 trailer. Heading out.
I didn't know where that was going.
It's the only thing I could think of to do the outro for.